Marcus Okonkwo's hands trembled as he watched the security footage for the seventh time that morning. There, on the grainy screen, was a barefoot boy no older than 12, dirty and wearing clothes 3 sizes too big, standing in his daughter's bedroom at 3 in the morning. But Marcus wasn't calling the police. He was crying. Because his daughter Amara, who hadn't moved her legs in 2 years, who hadn't smiled in 18 months, who the best doctors in America said would never walk again, was standing. Actually standing. Her thin legs shaking with effort, her hands gripping the boy's shoulders, tears streaming down her face as she took one impossible step, then another. The boy was dancing with her. Marcus rewound the footage again, his heart pounding so hard he thought it might explode. How did this homeless child get past his $20 million security system? Why was he in Amara's room? And how, in God's name, was his paralyzed daughter walking? But as he watched his daughter's face transform from the blank, hopeless expression she'd worn since the accident into something that looked like pure joy, Marcus realized he didn't care about the how. He only cared about one thing: finding that boy before he disappeared forever. The timestamp showed the boy had left through the window at 3:47 a.m. It was now 6:15 a.m. Marcus grabbed his keys, his phone forgotten on the desk, and ran. His driver tried to stop him, confused why his boss was leaving in his pajamas, but Marcus was already in his Maybach, tearing out of the estate in Potomac, Maryland, the same way the footage showed the boy had gone, toward the woods that bordered the poorest part of Prince George's County. What Marcus would discover in those woods would challenge everything he thought he knew about wealth, poverty, sacrifice, and the mysterious power that connects all living things. But first, he had to find the boy who had given his daughter something that billions of dollars couldn't buy: hope. The morning mist clung to the trees as Marcus crashed through the underbrush, his expensive silk pajamas snagging on thorns. He should have been afraid. These woods had a reputation. People went missing here. But parents who've watched their children suffer stop being afraid of anything except losing them. Then he heard it. Music. Not from any speaker or phone, but a voice, young and clear, singing in a language Marcus almost recognized. Yoruba maybe, or Igbo. Something ancient. Something that made his skin prickle with a feeling he couldn't name. He pushed through the final barrier of trees and stopped dead. In a clearing, surrounded by what could only be described as a homeless encampment, the boy was dancing again. But this time, he wasn't alone. A dozen people, all of them clearly unwell. Marcus could see crutches, wheelchairs, bandages, the telltale signs of chronic illness, were standing, sitting, or lying in a circle around him. And as the boy danced, as his bare feet moved in patterns that seemed impossible for a human body to create, something was happening to them. The man on crutches was crying, staring at his leg that hadn't supported weight in years as it slowly, impossibly, began to straighten. A woman with bandages around her eyes had removed them and was gasping, her hands covering her mouth as she looked at her own fingers like she was seeing them for the first time. And the boy, this small, impossibly thin child in his oversized clothes, was glowing. Not metaphorically. Actually glowing, with a soft golden light that seemed to pulse with the rhythm of his movements. Marcus opened his mouth to speak, to call out, to demand answers, but no sound came. Because at that moment, the boy stopped dancing and turned to look directly at him, as if he'd known Marcus was there all along. The boy's eyes were old, ancient, and terrified. "You shouldn't have come here, Mr. Okonkwo," the boy said in perfect English, his voice steady despite the fear in his eyes. "They're already looking for me. And now they'll be looking for you too." As if summoned by the words, the sound of vehicles, multiple vehicles, came crashing through the woods from the opposite direction. The boy's face went white. "Run," he whispered. "Run, and don't tell anyone what you saw. If you love your daughter, you'll forget I ever existed." But Marcus Okonkwo didn't run. Instead, he stepped forward, placing himself between the boy and whatever was coming. "Nobody," he said quietly, "is taking you anywhere." 3 weeks earlier, Marcus Okonkwo had been a different man. Still a billionaire, still powerful, still commanding respect in every boardroom from Lagos to New York. But success meant nothing when your child was suffering, and Amara had been suffering for exactly 23 months. The accident had been so stupid, so preventable, so ordinary that it made the tragedy worse. A wet floor at their country club. A patch of water near the pool that the staff had missed. Amara, then 10 years old, running to show her father the butterfly she'd caught, her eyes on the sky instead of the ground. The fall had been bad. The angle had been worse. Her spine had compressed in a way that the doctors said was extremely rare, a 1 in a million injury that had severed something they couldn't fix, couldn't even reach, without risking her life. Marcus had spent $20 million looking for a solution. The best neurosurgeons in Germany, experimental treatments in Switzerland, stem cell therapy in Japan, traditional healers in Nigeria, whose mother had insisted he visit, though he'd been skeptical. Nothing worked. Nothing even helped. The worst part wasn't that Amara couldn't walk. It was watching her give up. The bright, curious girl who'd wanted to be a dancer, who'd filled their home with laughter and endless questions, had become a ghost. She stopped talking unless directly addressed. Stopped eating unless forced. Stopped looking at anyone with those big brown eyes that used to sparkle with mischief and joy. His wife, Jennifer, had handled it differently. She'd thrown herself into charitable work, funding medical research, building hospitals in underserved communities. Marcus knew what she was really doing, running from the grief that filled their mansion like poison gas. They barely spoke anymore. They were two people drowning separately in the same house. That morning 3 weeks ago, Marcus had been in his study, reviewing another failed treatment proposal, when his head of security, Deshawn, had knocked urgently. "Sir, we have a situation with the sensors." Marcus looked up, irritated. "What kind of situation?" "The perimeter alarm went off last night, around 2 a.m. But when we checked the footage, there was nothing there. No animal, no person, nothing. The sensors registered motion, temperature change, even weight, but the cameras showed empty space." "Equipment malfunction," Marcus said, turning back to his papers. "Have them replaced." "Already did, sir. Brand new system. German technology, top of the line. But it happened again last night. Same pattern. Same location. Right outside Miss Amara's window." That had gotten Marcus's attention. They'd increased security after Amara's accident, paranoid about anyone trying to take advantage of their vulnerability. He'd invested in a system that could detect a rabbit from 300 yards away. "Show me the footage." They'd gone to the security office, a sophisticated setup that Deshawn ran like a military operation. The man had served 2 tours in Afghanistan before Marcus had hired him 5 years ago, and he took his job seriously. Deshawn pulled up the footage from 2 nights before. The timestamp showed 2:17 a.m. The camera focused on Amara's window showed nothing but empty lawn and the edge of the forest beyond. Then the temperature sensor spiked. Red alerts flashed on the screen. The motion detector went crazy. The weight sensors embedded in the lawn registered 110 pounds moving from the forest toward the house. But the camera showed nothing. "That's impossible," Marcus breathed. "Gets weirder," Deshawn said. He fast-forwarded. At 3:42 a.m., all the sensors spiked again, showing something leaving the house the same way it had come. "Whatever it is, it's going in and out. But watch this." He pulled up a different camera, one facing the interior hallway outside Amara's room. At 3:35 a.m., the door opened. No one came out. But the door definitely opened, slowly, carefully, as if someone was trying not to make noise. "Have you checked on Amara?" Marcus demanded. "She's fine. Sleeping normally. No signs of disturbance. But sir, I need to tell you something else. This morning, when I went to do my regular check, I found this outside her window." Deshawn held up an evidence bag. Inside was a small woven bracelet, the kind street vendors sold in Lagos. It was made of colored thread and tiny beads, arranged in patterns that Marcus recognized from his childhood in Nigeria. His grandmother had made him one just like it before she died. "That's an Igbo protection charm," Marcus said softly, taking the bag. "My grandmother used to make these." She said they kept evil spirits away and brought good fortune. You think someone's trying to protect Miss Amara? Deshawn asked. Or threaten her? Before Marcus could answer, his phone rang. Jennifer. She never called this early unless something was wrong. Marcus, come quickly. Her voice was strange, high-pitched with an emotion he couldn't identify. It's Amara. You need to see this. He ran. Through the house, up the grand staircase, down the hallway to his daughter's room. Jennifer was standing in the doorway, her hand over her mouth, staring. Amara was sitting up in bed. That alone was unusual. She normally lay flat, staring at the ceiling until the nurses came to help her. But that wasn't what had stopped Marcus's heart. She was smiling. Actually smiling, her face transformed into something he'd almost forgotten. Happiness. Daddy, she said, and her voice sounded different, lighter, like she was waking up from a long sleep. I had the most wonderful dream. Marcus moved to her bedside, afraid to hope, afraid to breathe. Tell me about it, baby girl. There was a boy, Amara said, her eyes distant with memory. He came through my window like magic. At first, I was scared, but he said not to be afraid. He said he was sent to help me. He told me his name was Ekene, and that name means praise in Igbo. He said you would understand. Marcus felt his throat tighten. His grandmother's name had been Ekene. He danced for me, Daddy. The most beautiful dancing I've ever seen. And when he danced, I could feel my legs. Not moving them, but feeling them, like they were waking up from sleep. He said I would walk again. He said I just had to be patient and brave. He said. She paused, her smile fading slightly. He said he couldn't stay because people were looking for him. Bad people. People who wanted to use his gift for evil. What gift, sweetheart? Jennifer asked gently. He can heal people, Amara said simply. But only through the dance. He said it was an old magic from our ancestors, from before the missionaries came and told us our ways were wrong. He said his grandmother taught him, and her grandmother taught her, going back hundreds of years. But most people who have the gift are gone now. Hunted. He's one of the last. Marcus and Jennifer exchanged looks. Baby, you know that was just a dream, right? Jennifer said carefully. But Marcus was thinking about the sensors. The invisible presence. The protection charm. The way his daughter looked right now, more alive than she'd been in 2 years. I don't think it was a dream, he said quietly. Over the next 2 weeks, the pattern continued. Every few nights, the sensors would go crazy, showing something invisible entering and leaving Amara's room. And every time it happened, Amara would wake up different. Happier. Stronger. She started eating without being asked. Started laughing at jokes again. Started talking about the future, about things she wanted to do when she could walk again. When she could walk again. Not if. When. And then, last night, Marcus had decided to install a heat signature camera, one that could detect body temperature regardless of what the visible spectrum showed. Military grade, technically illegal for civilian use, but Marcus Okonkwo didn't care about technicalities when his daughter was involved. The footage had shown everything. The boy, maybe 12 years old, thin as a rail, appearing on the heat signature camera as he climbed through Amara's window with a grace that seemed impossible. The way he'd stood at the foot of her bed, hesitating, before Amara had sat up and smiled at him like he was an old friend. The conversation Marcus couldn't hear, but could see in their body language, trust, gratitude, and from the boy, a deep sadness that made Marcus's heart ache even watching it on a screen. And then the boy had started to dance. Marcus had watched, transfixed, as the boy's movements created patterns that seemed to defy physics. His body bent in ways that should have been impossible, flowed like water, struck poses that seemed to freeze time itself. And as he danced, Amara had begun to move. First just her toes, wiggling slightly. Then her feet, flexing and pointing. Then, impossibly, her legs had bent at the knee. The boy had held out his hands, and Amara had taken them, had pulled herself up, shaking like a newborn fawn, tears streaming down her face. And together they had danced. Not well. Amara could barely stay upright. But she was standing. She was moving. She was walking in small, careful steps as the boy guided her, his own face transformed with joy and something else, relief, as if he'd been carrying a burden too heavy for his small shoulders and had finally been able to set it down. They'd danced for 20 minutes. Then the boy had helped Amara back to bed, tucked her in like a parent would, and disappeared back through the window. That's when Marcus had started running. Now, if you're enjoying this story so far, do me a favor. Hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications so you don't miss what happens next. Trust me, you're going to want to see where this goes. And smash that like button if you think Marcus made the right choice by going after the boy. Drop in the comments. Would you have done the same thing, or would you have called the police? I really want to know what you think. The vehicles burst into the clearing with military precision, black SUVs with tinted windows that screamed government agency, or something worse. 6 men emerged, all wearing dark suits despite the early morning heat, all moving with the practiced coordination of people who worked as a unit. The homeless people around the boy scattered like birds, grabbing their meager belongings and disappearing into the woods with a speed that spoke of practiced escape. But the boy, Ekene, stood frozen, his eyes fixed on the lead man emerging from the front vehicle. Marcus stepped closer to the boy, his protective instinct overriding his common sense. I said nobody's taking him. The lead man stopped 10 feet away. He was tall, maybe 6'4", with dark skin and features that marked him as West African. Nigerian, Marcus would guess, probably Yoruba from the tribal marks barely visible on his cheeks. His eyes swept over Marcus with a recognition that made Marcus's blood run cold. "Mr. Okonkwo," the man said, his accent confirming Marcus's guess. "We have no business with you. Step aside." "Who are you?" Marcus demanded. "My name is Dr. Adebayo Oluyemide. I work for an organization dedicated to preserving and studying traditional African healing practices. The boy is part of our research program. He ran away 2 months ago, and we've been searching for him ever since." "He's not part of any program," Ekene said, his voice stronger than Marcus expected. "You're lying. Tell him the truth, Dr. Oluyemide. Tell him what you really do." Dr. Oluyemide's expression didn't change, but something dangerous flashed in his eyes. "The boy is disturbed, traumatized. He doesn't understand that we're trying to help him. By locking me in a room and making me dance until I pass out?" Ekene shouted. "By taking my blood and my hair and pieces of my skin to run your tests. By threatening to kill my grandmother if I didn't cooperate." Marcus felt his hands curl into fists. "Is that true?" "The boy is delusional," Dr. Oluyemide said smoothly. "He has a gift, yes, but also severe mental health issues resulting from childhood trauma. We're trying to help him learn to control his abilities while treating his psychological problems. His grandmother signed the papers giving us custody. Everything we've done is legal." "My grandmother is dead," Ekene screamed, and the raw pain in his voice made Marcus flinch. "She died 6 months ago, and you took me from her funeral. You said you were from the government, that I had to come with you for my own safety. You lied then, and you're lying now." Marcus looked between the boy and the doctor, his mind racing. Everything about this situation screamed wrong. "If this is a legitimate research program, show me the papers. Show me proof of custody." Dr. Oluyemide smiled, but it didn't reach his eyes. "Mr. Okonkwo, I understand you're a powerful man, but you're interfering with a federal investigation. The boy possesses abilities that, in the wrong hands, could be weaponized. We're protecting him and protecting others from potential harm. Now, I'm asking you one last time to step aside." "And I'm refusing one last time," Marcus said. "You want him, you go through me. And then you deal with the team of lawyers I'll have on you before lunch, the media attention I'll bring to whatever you're doing, and the congressional investigation I can trigger with 3 phone calls." For a long moment, nobody moved. The clearing was silent except for the morning birds and the rustle of leaves in the wind. Then Dr. Oluyemide reached into his jacket, and Marcus tensed, ready to throw himself between the man and Ekene. But Dr. Oluyemide pulled out a phone. He dialed, waited, then spoke quietly in Yoruba. Marcus's grandmother had taught him enough to catch fragments. Situation compromised, high-profile witness, recommend abort, alternate acquisition plan. Dr. Alumide ended the call and looked at Marcus with something that might have been respect. You've made a powerful enemy today, Mr. Okonkwo. But you already knew that, didn't you? I've made enemies before, Marcus said. I'm still here. We'll see. Dr. Alumide turned to Ekene, and his expression softened into something almost sad. Boy, you can't run forever. The gift you carry is too important, too valuable. Sooner or later, you'll have to come with us or someone worse. At least we wanted to study it. Others will want to exploit it. Think about that. The men loaded back into their SUVs and drove away, leaving Marcus and Ekene alone in the clearing. For a long moment, neither spoke. Then Ekene's legs gave out, and he collapsed. Marcus caught him before he hit the ground, shocked by how light the boy was, how thin. Up close, he could see the signs of prolonged malnutrition, the hollow cheeks, the way his clothes hung on a frame that should have been filling out with the growth of adolescence. When's the last time you ate? Marcus asked. 2 days ago, Ekene admitted. Maybe 3. I lose track. Marcus felt something crack in his chest. Come on. Let's get you some food and somewhere safe to rest. I can't, Ekene said, trying to pull away. If I stay with you, they'll come after your family. They'll hurt your daughter to get to me. I've seen them do it before. Then we'll protect her, Marcus said firmly. And we'll protect you. But first you're going to eat something and tell me everything. And I mean everything. Who these people really are, what they want, and how a 12-year-old boy learned to heal people by dancing. I'm not 12, Ekene said quietly. I'm 14. I just look young because I haven't eaten properly since they took me. Marcus's jaw tightened. All the more reason to get you fed. Can you walk? Ekene nodded and stood, though his legs shook with the effort. Together, they made their way back through the woods to Marcus's car. The boy's eyes widened when he saw the Maybach, and despite everything, Marcus saw a flash of childish wonder cross his face. Never been in a car like this, have you? Marcus asked gently. Never been in any car much, Ekene admitted. My grandmother and we walked everywhere in Lagos. She said cars were for people who'd forgotten how to use their legs. Marcus smiled sadly, opening the passenger door. Your grandmother sounds like she was a wise woman. She was. Ekene climbed in carefully, running his hands over the leather seats with reverence. She taught me everything. The dances, the songs, the way to open myself to the ancestral power. She said our family had been healers for 20 generations, going back to before the white man came. She said the gift skips some generations, but never dies completely. Marcus started the car and headed toward his estate, his mind already racing through the logistics of what he was about to do. He was bringing a homeless, hunted child into his home, putting his family at risk from people who clearly had resources and no moral boundaries. Jennifer would think he'd lost his mind. But he'd seen his daughter stand. He'd seen her walk. After 2 years of hopelessness, he'd seen joy on her face again. Some things were worth any risk. Tell me about the dancing, Marcus said as they drove. How does it work? Ekene was quiet for a moment, staring out the window at the passing trees. My grandmother called it Igbo, the dance of life. She said that all living things are connected by invisible threads, like a spider's web. Most people can't see the threads or feel them, but people with the gift can. When we dance, we pull on the threads, weave them in new patterns, make them stronger where they've broken. And that heals people? Sometimes. If the break isn't too old, if the person believes it can work, if I'm strong enough to hold the pattern long enough for their body to remember how to be whole. Ekene's voice dropped. It costs something, though. Every time I dance, I give a piece of myself. My grandmother said that's the price of the gift. The more you heal others, the more you sacrifice your own life force. Marcus's hands tightened on the steering wheel. How much have you sacrificed? I don't know exactly. My grandmother could measure it by looking at someone's shadow, but I never learned that skill. I know I'm weaker than I was 6 months ago. More tired. The healings take longer now, and sometimes they don't work at all. Because of those people? Because they made you dance when you weren't ready? Ekene nodded. They had me heal 4 or 5 people a day, sometimes more. Rich people who paid them millions. Politicians. Businessmen. Once, a movie star who'd been in an accident. They didn't care that every healing took something from me. They didn't care that I needed time to rest, to rebuild my strength. They just wanted to make money. How did you escape? A small smile crossed Ekene's face. They underestimated me. They thought because I was young and weak that I couldn't do the invisibility dance. That's an advanced technique, very hard, very draining. But my grandmother taught it to me before she died. She said I might need it someday. She was right. The invisibility dance is what made the sensors detect you, but the cameras couldn't see you? Yes. I can't maintain it for long, and it doesn't work on everything. Heat sensors, motion detectors, things that measure energy instead of light, they can still find me. But regular cameras can't. Regular people can't. It's how I've been surviving, going to houses at night, finding food, helping people who are sick. You've been helping people this whole time? Marcus asked, stunned. While you were running for your life? My grandmother said the gift is a responsibility, not a power. If I have the ability to ease suffering and don't use it, I'm as guilty as the people who cause the suffering. So yes, I help when I can. I just have to be careful. If I help too many people in one place, Dr. Alyamide and his people find me. Is that how they found you this time? Because you helped Amara? Ekene nodded, guilt crossing his face. I'm sorry. I should have stayed away. But when I saw her through the window, saw how sad she was, how much pain she was in, I couldn't just walk past. And then I came back because one healing wasn't enough for an injury that old. I needed to do it several times to really fix the broken threads. I thought I was being careful. I guess I wasn't careful enough. They pulled through the gates of Marcus's estate, and Ekene gasped. The mansion rose before them, 3 stories of white stone and glass, surrounded by manicured lawns and gardens that stretched for acres. It looked like something from a movie, not a place where real people lived. This is your home? Ekene whispered. This is my home, Marcus confirmed. And for as long as you need it, it's your home too. Mr. Okonkwo, I can't. Yes, you can. And you will. And you're going to call me Marcus. He parked in front of the main entrance and turned to face the boy. Ekene, I don't fully understand what's happening here. I don't understand your gift or these people hunting you or how any of this is possible. But I understand one thing very clearly. You saved my daughter. You gave her hope when I'd run out of money and options and prayers. So now I'm going to save you. Fair trade. Ekene's eyes filled with tears. Fair trade, he whispered. They climbed out of the car, and Marcus led the boy toward the front door. But before they reached it, it burst open, and Jennifer stood there, her face pale with fury and fear. Marcus Okonkwo, what in God's name have you done? Jennifer stood in the doorway like a guardian angel, beautiful and terrifying in her silk robe, her natural hair wrapped in a purple scarf. Behind her, Deshawn hovered uncertainly, clearly having just filled her in on the morning's events. Jennifer, I can explain, Marcus started. Can you? She cut him off, her voice sharp enough to draw blood. Can you explain why you ran out of here in your pajamas without a word to anyone? Can you explain why Deshawn just told me you confronted armed men in the woods? Can you explain why you're bringing a stranger into our home when our daughter is upstairs, vulnerable? He's not a stranger, Marcus said quietly. He's the one who's been helping Amara. Jennifer's expression flickered, confusion replacing some of the anger. What? The invisible presence on the security footage. The reason Amara's been getting better. It's him. Marcus gestured to Ekene, who was trying to make himself smaller, clearly wishing he could disappear for real. His name is Ekene. He has a gift, Jennifer. A real gift. He's been healing our daughter. Jennifer looked at Ekene, really looked at him, taking in his thin frame, his oversized clothes, the exhaustion in his young face. Something in her expression softened, the mother in her recognizing a child in need despite her anger at her husband. You're the boy from Amara's dreams, she said slowly. Ekene nodded. Yes, ma'am. I'm sorry for entering your home without permission. I'm sorry for scaring you. I saw your daughter, and I could not help her. My grandmother would have wanted me to help. Your grandmother, Jennifer repeated, and Marcus could see her lawyer's mind working, categorizing information, looking for inconsistencies. Where is she now? Dead, ma'am. 6 months ago. Cancer that spread to her bones. I tried to heal her, but I wasn't strong enough, and the breaks in her threads were too many. I couldn't. His voice broke. I couldn't save her. Jennifer's professional armor cracked. She'd lost her own mother to cancer 3 years ago, had sat by her bedside feeling helpless as the disease ate away at the strong woman who'd raised her. Marcus saw the recognition in her eyes, the shared grief. Come inside, she said, stepping back. Both of you. You look like you haven't eaten in days, child. 3 days, ma'am, Ekene admitted. Maybe 4. Jesus. Jennifer was already moving toward the kitchen. Deshawn, get Dr. Kimura on the phone. Tell him we need him to do a house call immediately. Marcus, get that boy cleaned up. I'm making breakfast. Marcus exchanged a look with Ekene, the boy's confusion evident. When my wife starts cooking, it means she's accepted you, Marcus explained. She only cooks for people she's decided to take care of. But she was so angry. She's still angry. At me. But you're a child who needs help, and Jennifer can't turn away from that. It's not in her nature. Marcus led Ekene toward the guest wing. Come on. Let's get you a shower and some clean clothes. 30 minutes later, Ekene was transformed. The shower had revealed a handsome boy with warm brown skin and intelligent eyes. Marcus's old clothes from when he was younger, saved for sentimental reasons, fit him reasonably well, though they were still a bit loose. The boy looked almost normal, almost like any 14-year-old kid, except for the ancient weariness in his eyes. They returned to the kitchen to find Jennifer had prepared a feast: scrambled eggs, pancakes, bacon, fruit salad, toast, and fresh orange juice. Ekene's eyes went wide. I can't eat all this, he protested. Eat what you can, Jennifer said, setting a plate in front of him. And then eat more in an hour. You need to rebuild your strength. Ekene ate slowly at first, as if he'd forgotten how, then faster as his body remembered its hunger. Marcus and Jennifer watched, neither speaking, both processing what their lives had become in the span of one morning. Dr. Kimura arrived while Ekene was on his second plate. The family physician, a kind man in his 60s who'd been taking care of the Okonkwos for a decade, took one look at Ekene and frowned. Severe malnutrition, he said after a quick examination. Dehydration. Signs of chronic stress. This boy needs rest, regular meals, and monitoring. Mr. Okonkwo, where did you find him? It's complicated, Marcus said. I'm sure it is. Well, the uncomplicated part is that he needs care. Lots of it. I'll run some blood tests, but I can tell you right now that he's probably anemic, possibly has vitamin deficiencies, and his immune system is likely compromised. Keep him warm, fed, and calm. I'll be back tomorrow with the test results. After Dr. Kimura left, Marcus told Jennifer everything. The security footage, the confrontation in the woods, Dr. Olyumide and his organization, Ekene's gift, and the price it extracted. Jennifer listened without interrupting, her expression growing darker with each revelation. So, we're harboring a fugitive, she said when he finished. From what sounds like a black ops organization that has unlimited resources and no moral compass. Have I got that right? Technically, he's not a fugitive since he was never legally in their custody, Marcus pointed out. His grandmother's dead, so any papers they have are forged. He's an unaccompanied minor who needs protection. And the fact that he can heal people by dancing? The fact that he made Amara walk. How do we explain that to people? We don't, Ekene said quietly. Both adults turned to look at him. You can't tell anyone about what I can do. The more people who know, the more danger you're all in. Dr. Olyumide isn't the only one looking for people like me. There are others, worse people. Corporations who want to bottle the gift somehow, make drugs from it. Criminal organizations who want to use it to keep their leaders alive. Government agencies from multiple countries who want to weaponize it. My grandmother spent her whole life hiding what she could do. She said the gift is safest when it's secret. But you used it to help people, Jennifer protested. You helped Amara. Surely that's worth something. My grandmother helped people too, Ekene said. One at a time, quietly, in ways that looked like natural recoveries. She never drew attention to herself, never took credit, never accepted payment beyond food and shelter. She said the gift was from the ancestors, not from us, and we were just vessels. The moment we made it about us, about power or money or fame, the gift would corrupt us the same way it corrupts everyone who tries to own it. Marcus thought about Dr. Alyamide, about the cold calculation in his eyes. Is that what happened to the organization hunting you? They started with good intentions and got corrupted? Maybe. Or maybe they were always corrupt and just hid it well. My grandmother knew about them. She called them the collectors. Said they'd been hunting gifted people for decades, taking them, studying them, trying to replicate the gift in people who weren't born with it. She said most of the people they took were never seen again. Jennifer's hand went to her mouth. That's horrific. That's why I have to keep moving, Ekene said. Why I can't stay here, no matter how kind you're being. They know about this place now. They know I have a connection to your daughter. They'll be watching, waiting for a chance to take me, when you're not looking. And they'll hurt anyone who tries to stop them. Then we don't give them a chance, Marcus said firmly. We increase security, we keep you here where we can protect you, and we figure out a way to expose these people for what they are. You can't, Ekene said desperately. You don't understand. You can't, Ekene said desperately. You don't understand. The collectors have people everywhere. Police departments, government agencies, hospitals, media companies. My grandmother said they've been operating for over 50 years, building power and connections. If you try to expose them, they'll destroy you, make you look crazy, or make you disappear. Money and influence mean nothing to them because they have both. Then what do you suggest? Jennifer asked, and Marcus could hear the frustration in her voice. She was a fixer, a woman who solved problems with intelligence and determination. This situation was slipping beyond her control, and she hated it. Before Ekene could answer, they heard footsteps on the stairs. Quick, uneven footsteps that made all three of them freeze. Amara appeared in the kitchen doorway, gripping the frame for support, her legs shaking with effort. But she was standing, on her own, without help. Ekene, she breathed, her face lighting up with joy. You came back. I was so worried when I woke up and you were gone. I tried to stand like we practiced and it worked. Daddy, Mama, did you see? I stood up by myself. Jennifer made a sound between a laugh and a sob, rushing to her daughter's side. Baby, you shouldn't be out of bed. You could hurt yourself. I'm not going to hurt myself, Amara said with the confidence of a child who'd just discovered she could do the impossible. Ekene fixed me. My legs are getting stronger every day. Soon I'll be able to run again. Marcus watched his wife support their daughter, saw the tears streaming down Jennifer's face, and knew that the decision had already been made. Whatever danger this brought, whatever risk they faced, they couldn't turn away from the boy who'd given them back their child. Ekene stays, he said firmly. We'll figure out how to keep everyone safe. But he stays. Jennifer looked at him over Amara's head, and after a long moment, she nodded. He stays. But we do this smart. We need a plan. I might have one, Ekene said quietly. But you're not going to like it. They settled Amara on the couch in the family room, Ekene sitting beside her as she chattered happily about all the things she wanted to do once she could walk properly again. Marcus and Jennifer stood nearby, watching the easy friendship between the two children and listening to Ekene's plan with growing horror. The only way to be truly safe from the collectors is to make the gift public, Ekene explained. Not by demonstrating it, that would just bring more people trying to capture me. But by explaining it, demystifying it, showing that it's not magic or supernatural power, but a skill that can be learned by anyone with the right training and discipline. But you said it runs in families, Marcus objected. That it's passed down through generations. The potential runs in families, Ekene corrected. Like musical talent or athletic ability. But my grandmother believed that most people have a small amount of the gift buried deep. They just never learn to access it because modern life has disconnected us from the old ways, from the ancestral knowledge, from the understanding of how we're all connected. So you want to what? Teach people? Jennifer asked skeptically. Start a school for dancing healers? Not exactly. I want to write down everything my grandmother taught me. Every dance, every song, every principle. I want to put it on the internet where everyone can see it, where it can't be hidden or controlled or owned by anyone. If the knowledge is free and available to everyone, the collectors lose their power. They can't profit from something that everyone has access to. Marcus saw the genius in it immediately. If everyone can learn it, you're not special anymore. You're not worth hunting.
Exactly.
I'll just be one of many, not the last of my kind. The collectors would have no reason to want me specifically. Except that you've already proven you have the gift, Jennifer pointed out. You've already demonstrated that you can do what most people would only be attempting. They'd still want you as a teacher, a trainer, someone who could help them develop others. Maybe, Ekene admitted, but at least the knowledge would be preserved. Even if something happened to me, the gift wouldn't die. My grandmother's greatest fear was that the old ways would be lost forever, that centuries of wisdom would disappear because people like the collectors forced us into hiding. This way, even if I don't survive, the gift does. The casual way he talked about his own death made Marcus's chest tight. Nothing's going to happen to you. We won't let it. You can't promise that, Mr. Marcus. None of us knows what tomorrow brings. My grandmother taught me that. But we can choose how we face tomorrow. We can choose to hide in fear, or we can choose to fight by spreading the truth. I think it's a good idea, Amara said suddenly. Everyone looked at her.
What?
I do. Ekene shouldn't have to hide what he can do. It's not fair. He helped me when nobody else could. He should be able to help other people too, without being afraid all the time. Out of the mouths of babes, Marcus thought. His daughter, who'd suffered so much, was ready to take risks to help the boy who'd helped her. How could he do any less? All right, he said. Let's do it. But we do it right. We document everything. We get it verified by reputable scientists. We build a case that can't be dismissed as fraud or delusion. And we do it fast before the collectors can figure out what we're planning. We'll need help, Jennifer said, her mind already working through logistics. Researchers, medical professionals, people who understand traditional healing practices. And we need security, real security, not just guards, but a whole protective infrastructure. I know people, Marcus said. I'll make calls. Over the next few hours, the Okonkwo mansion transformed into a war room. Marcus contacted trusted colleagues, scholars of African traditional medicine, researchers who'd spent careers studying practices that Western medicine dismissed. Jennifer reached out to her network of lawyers and activists, people who'd fought against corporate exploitation and government overreach. Deshawn coordinated with a private security firm he'd served with overseas, bringing in people who knew how to protect against sophisticated threats. Ekene, meanwhile, began writing. Amara sat with him, helping him remember details, asking questions that helped him clarify his explanations. Watching them work together, heads bent over a laptop, Marcus felt hope for the first time in months. Maybe they could actually pull this off. But that night, as darkness fell over the estate, the first sign came that the collectors weren't going to wait around to see what the Okonkwos were planning. Marcus was in his study, on a video call with a professor of traditional Igbo medicine at Howard University, when the power went out. Not just in his study, but throughout the entire estate. The backup generators should have kicked in immediately, but they didn't. Through the window, Marcus saw figures moving in the darkness. Lots of them, surrounding the house with military precision. He grabbed his phone, but there was no signal. They were being jammed. Jennifer, he shouted, running toward the family room where she'd been working with Amara and Ekene. We need to. The explosion cut off his words. Not a big one, just enough to blow out the front door and send a clear message. They were coming in. Marcus burst into the family room to find Jennifer already moving, grabbing Amara, her eyes wild with fear. Ekene stood frozen, staring at the hallway as heavy footsteps approached. The panic room, Jennifer gasped. Marcus, the panic room. They'd installed it after Amara's accident. Reinforced safe space with its own power supply and communication systems. But it was on the other side of the house, and the footsteps were getting closer. We won't make it, Marcus said. Deshawn, where are? Here, sir. Deshawn appeared from the back hallway, breathing hard, blood running from a cut on his forehead. They've got the main entrances covered. At least 20 men, maybe more. Professional operation. We're cut off. Then we make a stand here, Marcus said, positioning himself between his family and the doorway. No, Ekene said quietly. His voice had changed, taken on a quality that made everyone turn to look at him. There's another way. But you all have to trust me completely.
Can you do that?
Marcus looked at this thin, exhausted boy who'd already sacrificed so much, who was still willing to sacrifice more, and made his choice. We trust you. Ekene nodded and began to move. Not dancing yet, but positioning himself in the center of the room, his bare feet finding places on the floor that seemed to matter to him alone. Everyone join hands, he instructed. Make a circle around me. Don't let go, no matter what happens, no matter what you see or feel. If you break the circle, this won't work. They did as he said. Marcus, Jennifer holding Amara, Deshawn, the four of them making a circle with Ekene in the center. What are you going to do? Jennifer whispered. Something my grandmother only taught me in theory, Ekene admitted. I've never actually tried it before. But she said that if enough people believe together, if enough people open themselves to the ancestral power at once, the dance can protect as well as heal. She called it Agua Enchido, the shield dance. You've never done this before? Marcus asked, trying to keep the panic from his voice. First time for everything, Ekene said with a ghost of a smile. Then he began to dance. This was different from what Marcus had seen on the security footage. Where before Ekene's movements had been flowing and graceful, now they were sharp, aggressive, powerful. His feet struck the floor with sounds like drum beats. His arms cut through the air like weapons. His body spun and leapt with an intensity that seemed impossible for someone so exhausted and malnourished. And as he danced, light began to emanate from him. Not the soft golden glow from before, but something brighter, fiercer, like captured lightning. Marcus felt it first in his hands, a tingling warmth that spread up his arms and into his chest. Then he felt Jennifer's grip tighten, heard Amara gasp, knew they were feeling it too. The warmth became heat, the heat became power, flowing through all of them, connecting them in a way that went beyond physical touch. He could feel Jennifer's fierce love for their daughter, could feel Amara's joy at being able to move again, could feel Deshawn's loyalty and determination. And underneath it all, he could feel Ekene, not just the boy's exhaustion and fear, but his strength, his courage, his unshakable belief in the goodness of the gift he carried. The footsteps reached the doorway. Men in tactical gear burst in, weapons raised, prepared for resistance. But they stopped dead when they saw what was happening in the center of the room. Ekene was still dancing, but now he seemed to be in multiple places at once, his movements creating afterimages that overlapped and intersected. The light surrounding him had spread to include the entire circle, bathing all of them in golden radiance. And from that light, shapes were emerging. Human shapes, transparent like ghosts, but somehow more real than anything Marcus had ever seen. Old women in traditional Igbo clothing. Old men with tribal marks and wise eyes. Children who danced alongside Ekene, their movements mirroring his. The ancestors, Marcus realized with a shock that went beyond surprise into wonder. Ekene was calling the ancestors themselves. Dr. Olumide pushed through his men, his eyes wide with something between awe and greed. Impossible, he breathed. No one successfully performed the Agua Enchido in over 100 years. The boy is even more powerful than we thought. You're not taking him, Marcus said, and his voice sounded different, deeper, like it was coming from somewhere beyond himself. You're not taking any of us. Mr. Okonkwo, be reasonable. Look at what he's doing to himself. Look. Marcus did look, and his heart clenched. Ekene was glowing brighter than ever, but underneath the light, his skin had taken on a grayish cast. His movements, while still powerful, were starting to falter. Blood was trickling from his nose. He was burning himself out to protect them. Ekene, stop. Amara cried. You're hurting yourself. Can't stop, Ekene gasped. Have to finish the pattern. Then we help him finish it, Jennifer said suddenly. Marcus, do you remember? Your grandmother taught us some of the old songs at our wedding. She said they were for protection and blessing. Start singing. Marcus didn't think, just open his mouth and let the words come. Old words in Igbo, half remembered from childhood, taught to him by a grandmother who died when he was 10. Words he hadn't thought about in decades. But they came now, flowing out of him like water from a long-sealed well. And to his shock, the ancestral shapes around Ekene responded, growing more solid, more present. Jennifer joined in, her voice uncertain at first, then stronger. She didn't know the words, but she hummed the melody, adding her voice to the song. Deshawn, who'd never heard the language before, began to clap, providing rhythm, giving beat to the music. And Amara, their brave daughter, who'd suffered so much, began to move her feet. Not walking, just shifting weight from side to side, but in time with Ekene's dance, her body remembering rhythms that were older than memory. The light exploded outward, filling the entire room, blinding in its intensity. When Marcus's vision cleared, Dr. Alyamide and his men were gone. Not fled, gone, as if they'd never been there. The front door was intact. The lights were on. Everything was exactly as it had been before the attack. Except that Ekene lay unconscious in the center of their circle, his breathing shallow, his skin cold to the touch. Call Dr. Kimura, Marcus barked at Deshawn.
Now.
As Deshawn ran for the phone, as Jennifer gathered Ekene's limp form in her arms, as Amara cried and asked if her friend would be okay, Marcus stood and stared at his hands. They were still glowing faintly with golden light. He'd felt it, the ancestral power, the connection that Ekene had talked about. For a few moments, he'd understood what the boy had been trying to explain, that they really were all connected, that the separation between individuals was an illusion, that healing and protection came from recognizing and embracing that fundamental truth. And he'd felt something else too, a presence in the light. Watching them. Approving. Ekene's grandmother, he thought. She was here. She helped us. The thought should have been impossible, should have been crazy. But after what he'd just experienced, Marcus was ready to believe in anything. Dr. Kimura worked through the night, monitoring Ekene's vitals, administering 4 fluids, doing everything he could to stabilize the boy. By dawn, Ekene's breathing had improved and some color had returned to his face, but he remained unconscious. It's like his body is just shut down, Dr. Kimura explained to Marcus and Jennifer as they kept vigil by Ekene's bedside in one of the guest rooms. All his systems are functioning, but barely. It's as if he's used up every reserve of energy he had and then kept going. I've never seen anything quite like it. Will he recover? Jennifer asked. I honestly don't know. If he were an adult, I'd say the prognosis was poor. But children are resilient, and his vitals are stable. We just have to wait and see if his body can rebuild what he's lost. After Dr. Kimura left, Marcus sat in the chair beside Ekene's bed, holding the boy's thin hand. You saved us, he said quietly, even though Ekene couldn't hear him. You sacrificed yourself for people you barely know. Why would you do that? Because that's who he is, Amara said from the doorway. She'd refused to leave the room, sleeping on the floor beside Ekene's bed, talking to him constantly even though he didn't respond. He's good, Daddy. Like actually good, not just pretending to be good like most people. He can't help himself from helping people. That's going to get him killed, Marcus said bleakly. Then we have to protect him, Amara said simply. Like he protected us. Over the next 3 days, while Ekene slept, Marcus and Jennifer worked to understand what had happened during the attack. They reviewed security footage, which showed nothing, as if the assault had never occurred, and talked to Deshawn and his team, who all confirmed that armed men had breached the estate. But there was no physical evidence. No broken door, no shell casings, no footprints. Just their memories and the persistent glow that had faded from their hands, but not from their dreams. The shield dance didn't just protect us, Jennifer said as they sat in Marcus's study, trying to make sense of it all. It erased the attack from reality. Sent those men somewhere else, some other time. How is that possible? I don't know. But I know someone who might. Marcus pulled up a contact on his phone, someone he'd been avoiding calling, because the conversation would be difficult. His mother, Chioma, who still lived in Lagos and who never fully approved of Marcus's American wife or his distance from Nigerian culture. The call connected, and his mother's face filled the screen, older than Marcus remembered, but still sharp-eyed and formidable. "Marcus," she said in Igbo. "It has been months since you called. I suppose you only remember your mother when you need something." "Mama, I'm sorry. Things have been difficult here with Amara. I heard about her accident. I sent prayers. You never acknowledged them." Guilt twisted in Marcus's gut. "I should have."
I'm sorry.
"But Mama, I need to ask you about something. About grandmother's stories. She used to tell me about the old ways, about people who could heal with dancing. I thought they were just fairy tales, but they were not fairy tales." Chioma interrupted, her expression growing serious. "Your grandmother was one of the gifted ones. She could have been a great healer if she'd stayed in Nigeria. But she chose to come to America with your grandfather, and here the gift weakened. The ancestors are not as strong in foreign soil." Marcus felt like he'd been punched. "Grandmother was a healer? You never told me. You never asked. You were too busy becoming American, forgetting where you came from. Why do you ask now?" Marcus explained, haltingly at first, then faster as the words tumbled out. He told her about Ekene, about Amara walking, about the collectors and the shield dance and everything that had happened. Chioma listened without interrupting, her expression growing more troubled with each revelation. "This boy," she said when he finished. "He performed the agua enchido? Successfully."
Yes.
"But it nearly killed him." "Of course it did. The shield dance requires the power of 7 gifted healers working together, or one healer drawing on the power of 7 generations of ancestors. For a boy alone to attempt it." She shook her head. "He must carry an extraordinary lineage. Or an extraordinary curse." "What do you mean, curse?" "In our tradition, great power always comes with great cost. The more powerful the gift, the shorter the life. Your grandmother knew this. She chose a quiet life, small healings, preservation of her own life force. But some gifted ones choose differently. They burn bright and fast, spending their power freely to help others, knowing it will kill them young." "Ekene's grandmother died young," Marcus said quietly. "Cancer," he said. "Not cancer," Chioma corrected gently. "Depletion. The gift consumed her from within because she gave too much, healed too many, never stopped to replenish herself. And now her grandson is following the same path. How do we stop it? How do we save him?" "You cannot save someone from themselves, my son. But you can help them choose a different path. The gift does not have to consume him, not if he learns moderation, learns to draw power from other sources rather than always spending his own. And for that, he needs teachers. Real teachers, not these collectors who want to exploit him." "Do you know teachers? People who could help him?" Chioma was quiet for a long moment. "There is a community," she said finally. "Scattered across Nigeria and Ghana, small groups who've preserved the old ways in secret. People like your grandmother, who knew the dances and songs and rituals. They do not advertise their presence. They do not seek students. But for a boy with such powerful lineage, they might make an exception. Could you contact them? Ask them?" "I will try. But Marcus, you must understand something. If this boy is as powerful as you say, if he truly performed the agua enchido alone, then the collectors are not your only problem. There are older organizations, darker forces, that hunt the gifted ones. They will have felt what he did. They will be coming. Then we need to move fast." "Thank you, Mama." "Marcus." His mother's voice stopped him before he could disconnect. "Bring the boy home. To Nigeria. He will be safer there, on ancestral ground, where the old powers are still strong. And bring your family. Let Amara meet her grandmother before I die. Let me teach her the songs our family has sung for 20 generations. Marcus felt tears prick his eyes.
I will, Mama.
I promise. After the call, Marcus found Jennifer in the kitchen, making soup for Ekene, even though the boy was still unconscious. It was how she coped with stress, through action, through doing something, anything, to help. We need to take him to Nigeria, Marcus said. My mother knows people who can teach him, who can help him learn to use his gift without destroying himself. Jennifer didn't look up from the pot. When? As soon as he's well enough to travel. And the collectors? They'll follow us. Maybe.
Probably.
But according to my mother, Ekene will be stronger there, on ancestral ground. And we'll have allies, people who understand what we're dealing with. People who've been hiding for generations, Jennifer pointed out. That doesn't exactly inspire confidence. Do you have a better idea? She was quiet for a moment, stirring the soup with more force than necessary. No, she admitted finally. But Marcus, this is insane. A week ago, we were a normal family dealing with a tragedy. Now we're caught up in some kind of supernatural war, harboring a boy who can bend reality, planning to flee to Nigeria because ancient spirit hunters are after us. How did this become our life? Marcus moved to her, wrapping his arms around her from behind, resting his chin on her shoulder. It became our life the moment Ekene crawled through Amara's window and gave us back our daughter. Everything else is just consequences. Are you sorry? Jennifer leaned back against him, and he felt some of the tension leave her body. No, she said softly. I'm terrified, but I'm not sorry. That boy is special, Marcus. Not just because of his gift, but because of who he is. The way he looks at Amara, like she's his sister. The way he talks about his grandmother, with so much love. The way he was willing to die for strangers. People like that are rare. We can't abandon him. We won't, Marcus promised. But even as he said it, he felt a chill run down his spine. Chioma's words echoed in his mind. Darker forces, older organizations, already coming. They didn't have much time. On the fourth day, Ekene woke up. Marcus was at his bedside when it happened, reviewing security reports while keeping watch. One moment, the boy was still and pale. The next, his eyes flickered open, unfocused at first, then sharpening as awareness returned. Mr. Marcus? Ekene's voice was barely a whisper. I'm here, Marcus said, setting aside his tablet. Don't try to move. You've been unconscious for 4 days. 4 days? Ekene tried to sit up, but his body wouldn't cooperate.
Amara.
The others. Are they? Everyone's fine. You protected us. The collectors are gone, erased, like they were never here. Marcus helped Ekene take a sip of water. But you nearly died doing it. Dr. Kimura says you depleted yourself completely. Ekene, why did you risk that? You barely know us. Ekene was quiet for a moment, his eyes distant. I saw them, he said finally. The ancestors. When I was dancing, my grandmother was there. She told me that saving you all was important. That you would help me do what needs to be done, help me free the gift from the people who want to own it. She said you were good people, worthy of the sacrifice. Your grandmother was there? Marcus breathed.
Yes.
And others. Dozens of others, hundreds maybe. All the healers who came before, all the way back to the beginning. They let me their power, so I could finish the shield dance. Without them, I couldn't have done it. I'm not that strong alone. You're stronger than you think, Marcus said. But you can't keep doing this. You can't keep spending yourself so completely. My mother says... He stopped, realized what he was about to reveal. Your mother knows about the gift? Ekene's eyes widened. Your grandmother was... a healer, yes. I didn't know until I called her, until I asked about you. She says there are others in Nigeria, people who can teach you, who can show you how to use your gift without burning yourself out. We want to take you there, Ekene. If you'll come with us. Ekene's eyes filled with tears. You do that? Take me across the ocean. Bring me to your ancestral home. Just to help me? You saved my daughter, Marcus said simply. You saved my family. This is nothing compared to that. But more than that, you deserve better than running and hiding and slowly dying from your own gift. You deserve teachers, a community, a chance at a real life. Let us give you that. Before Ekene could answer, Amara burst into the room, having heard the commotion from down the hall. Ekene, you're awake. She launched herself at the bed, hugging him carefully. I was so worried. You've been asleep forever. Daddy, tell him about Nigeria. Tell him about the school and the other healers and everything. Marcus watched his daughter's excitement, saw the way Ekene's expression transformed from exhaustion to joy just from her presence, and knew they were making the right choice. Whatever came next, whatever dangers followed them, this was worth fighting for.
Family.
Not by blood, but by choice. Later that day, when Ekene was strong enough to walk with assistance, they gathered in the family room, the same room where the shield dance had happened, where everything had changed. Deshawn was there too, along with Dr. Kimura, both men having become part of this strange new reality. Before we make any concrete plans, Jennifer said, Ekene needs to understand what we're proposing. It's not just a trip to Nigeria. We're talking about uprooting our entire lives, moving there permanently if necessary. Marcus's mother is setting up introductions with the hidden communities of healers. We're going to publicly document Ekene's gift, share the knowledge as widely as possible, and expose the collectors for what they are. All of this will paint a massive target on our backs. Why would you do that?
Ekene asked.
You could just send me to Nigeria alone. You'd be safer. We're a family now, Amara interrupted fiercely. All of us. You don't leave family behind. Ekene looked around at the assembled group, at these people who'd risked everything for him, and Marcus saw the moment when the boys' carefully maintained walls crumbled. He started to cry, deep sobs that shook his thin frame, the grief and fear and loneliness of the past 6 months finally finding release. Marcus pulled him close, letting him cry, remembering his own grandmother's words from long ago. The strongest people are those who let themselves be weak enough to accept help. When Ekene's tears finally subsided, he pulled back and wiped his face. Okay, he said. I'll come with you. I'll learn from the teachers. I'll help document everything. But I have one condition. Name it, Marcus said. We find the other gifted ones that the collectors took. The ones who disappeared. We help them escape, bring them to Nigeria too if they want. We don't just save me. We save everyone we can. Marcus thought about the resources that would require, the danger, the near impossibility of locating people who were being hidden by an organization with unlimited power. Then he looked at his daughter, standing strong on legs that shouldn't work, and at Jennifer, whose eyes had regained the fierce determination he'd fallen in love with, and at Deshawn, who'd already proven his loyalty went beyond a paycheck.
Deal, he said.
We save everyone we can. Now, if you're still with me, I need you to do something. Drop a comment below and tell me where you're watching from. I want to know how far the story is reaching. Are you in the US? Africa? Somewhere else entirely? And tell me, would you have made the same choice Marcus made? Would you have taken in a stranger, knowing it would put your family at risk? Or would you have called the authorities and walked away? I really want to know your thoughts, so share them in the comments. And don't forget to share this video with someone who needs to hear this story. Hit that share button now. 3 months later, Marcus Okonkwo stood in a compound outside Lagos, watching Ekene dance with 5 other children under the instruction of an ancient woman named Mama Adiz. The morning sun painted everything golden, and birds sang in the trees that surrounded the training ground. The journey to get here had been harrowing. The collectors had tried twice more to take Ekene before they'd left America, attacks that were only thwarted by Deshawn's security team and the protective wards that Chioma had taught them to create. The documentation process had been equally challenging, filming Ekene's healings while protecting the identities of those he helped, working with sympathetic researchers to verify his abilities without exposing him to exploitation. But they'd done it. The videos were online, viewed millions of times. The written documentation was freely available, translated into dozens of languages. And while skeptics remained, there would always be skeptics. Enough people believed, enough people were trying to learn, that the gift was no longer a secret that could be controlled. The collectors had gone underground, their operations disrupted by the exposure. Dr. Al-Yamid had disappeared, though Marcus suspected they'd hear from him again someday. But for now, they'd one breathing room. And they'd found 3 of the missing gifted ones, relocated them to safety, reunited them with families who'd thought them dead. 3 out of how many, Marcus didn't know. But it was a start. Your son is a fast learner, Mama Adiz said in Igbo, moving to stand beside Marcus. She was impossibly old, her face creased with wrinkles, but her eyes were sharp and her movements surprisingly spry. His grandmother taught him well. He's not actually my son, Marcus replied in the same language, his Igbo rusty but improving daily. Though it feels like he is. Blood is not the only thing that makes family, Mama Adiz said. You carry the healer's gift too, you know. Dormant, yes, but present. Your grandmother had it, and she passed it to you. With training, you could learn the dances. Marcus watched Ekene move through a complex pattern, his body healthy now, filled out from 3 months of regular meals and proper rest. The boy was teaching the other children, sharing what he knew with the same generous spirit that had nearly killed him. I'm too old to learn new dances, Marcus said. You're 42, Mama Adiz replied dryly. Hardly ancient. And your daughter has the gift too, stronger than yours. I've been watching her. She has your grandmother's eyes. If you stay in Nigeria, I could teach you both. Marcus felt his heart skip. Amara has the gift? Of course. It runs in bloodlines and yours is a strong one. The accident that injured her spine also awakened her sensitivity to the ancestral power. That's why Ekene's healings worked so well on her. She was already halfway open to receiving them. With proper training, she could become a formidable healer herself. Marcus thought about that, about his daughter learning the dances, carrying on a tradition that stretched back centuries. About breaking the cycle of loss and secrecy that had defined previous generations. About choosing differently. We'll stay, he said. Jennifer's already talking about starting a foundation here, using our resources to support the hidden communities, help them come out of the shadows safely. And I think I'm ready to learn who I really am, who we really are. Mama Adiz smiled, and for a moment, Marcus saw his grandmother in her expression. Your grandmother would be proud. She always worried that bringing your family to America would sever the connection to the old ways. But look, you've brought them back. You've come home. Home. Marcus tested the word, looking around at the compound that would be their base for the foreseeable future. It wasn't the mansion in Potomac, wasn't the life he'd built over decades of business success. But as he watched Ekene laugh, as he heard Amara call out questions in Igbo to the other children, as he felt the warm Nigerian sun on his face, Marcus realized Mama Adiz was right. This was home. Not because of the place, but because of the people, the purpose, the connection to something larger than himself. Jennifer emerged from one of the buildings, her natural hair loose around her shoulders, wearing traditional Igbo cloth that Chioma had given her. She'd taken to life in Nigeria with surprising enthusiasm, throwing herself into learning the culture and language with the same fierce determination she'd once reserved for courtrooms. The first meeting is set, she announced, joining Marcus and continue. D. Mama Adiz. 5 more families have come forward. Their children show signs of the gift, but they're afraid to acknowledge it because of the stories about the collectors. They want to know if it's really safe now, if we can really protect them. Can we? Marcus asked. We can try, Jennifer said. That's all anyone can do. Try and keep trying and build something better than what came before. From the training ground, Ekene called out, Mr. Marcus. Miss Jennifer.
Come watch.
Amara's learning the first healing dance. They moved closer to see Amara standing in the center of the circle, her legs strong now, no trace of the injury that had once defined her life. She was moving hesitantly, following Mama Adiz's granddaughter's instructions, her feet finding the ancient patterns that her ancestors had walked for generations. And as she moved, Marcus saw it, a faint shimmer around her, the first awakening of the gift. Not as strong as Ekene's, not yet, but present.
Real. Growing.
His daughter was going to be a healer. The thought filled him with equal parts pride and terror. He knew the cost now, knew the danger, knew the sacrifice that the gift demanded. But he also knew the joy, the purpose, the profound connection to something eternal and beautiful. She'll need teachers, he said quietly to Jennifer. Real teachers who can guide her safely, who can show her how to use the gift without it consuming her. She'll have them, Jennifer replied. She'll have Mama Adiz and Ekene and eventually you, once you've learned the dances yourself. She'll have a whole community behind her. She won't have to face this alone like Ekene did. Marcus pulled his wife close, watching their daughter dance. How did we get here? He asked. From corporate boardrooms to Nigerian healing compounds? From skeptics of anything we couldn't measure to this. A homeless boy came through our daughter's window, Jennifer said simply. And we made a choice. Every day since then, we've kept making that choice. To help, to trust, to believe in something bigger than ourselves. That's how we got here. As the sun climbed higher, painting the compound in shades of gold and amber, Ekene finished his demonstration and brought all the children together for the closing ceremony. They sang in Igbo, voices blending in harmonies that seemed to resonate with the earth itself. Marcus found himself singing too, the words coming easier each time, his voice joining with his daughter's, his wife's, and the boy who'd saved them all. The boy who'd shown them that wealth meant nothing compared to purpose, that power meant nothing compared to service, that success meant nothing compared to connection. Deshawn emerged from the security office, tablet in hand. Boss, Marcus, sorry, still getting used to the informal thing. We've got intel on another facility. Collector's operation in South Africa. Looks like they're holding at least 6 gifted ones, maybe more. Marcus looked at Jennifer, saw his own thoughts reflected in her eyes. 3 months ago, they would have said it was impossible, too dangerous, beyond their capabilities. But 3 months ago, they'd been different people. Contact our team in Cape Town, Marcus said. Start putting together a rescue plan. But carefully. We don't move until we're sure we can get everyone out safely. On it, Deshawn said, already working his phone. Mama Adiz chuckled. From billionaire businessman to liberation fighter. You've come a long way, Marcus Okonkwo. We've all come a long way, Marcus replied. But we've got further to go. Ekene says there might be dozens of gifted ones in hiding or captivity. We can't rest until we've found them all, until we've built a world where children with gifts don't have to hide, don't have to run, don't have to sacrifice themselves in secret. A noble goal, Mama Adiz said. And an impossible one. But then, most things worth doing are impossible until someone does them. As the ceremony ended, the children dispersed to their various lessons and training sessions. Ekene lingered behind, approaching Marcus with something in his hand, a woven bracelet, identical to the one he'd left at Amara's window all those months ago. My grandmother taught me to make these, Ekene said, offering it to Marcus. She said they represent the connections between people, the threads that bind us all together. I made this for you, to say thank you for everything you've done. Everything you're still doing. Marcus took the bracelet, his throat tight with emotion. You don't need to thank us, Ekene. You gave us our daughter back. You gave us purpose. You showed us who we really are. We should be thanking you. Then we're even, Ekene said with a smile. And we're family. That's what matters. Later that evening, as the compound settled into the peaceful rhythms of night, Marcus sat on the veranda of their new home, the bracelet on his wrist, a beer in his hand that he wasn't really drinking. Jennifer joined him, carrying 2 cups of the spiced tea that Chioma had taught her to make. What are you thinking about? She asked, handing him the tea and taking his untouched beer. Everything. Nothing. How different our lives are now. Whether we made the right choices. Do you regret it? Marcus thought about that, really thought about it. He'd given up his business empire, his position in American society, the comfortable life he'd built over decades. They'd traded safety for danger, certainty for chaos, the known for the utterly unknown. No, he said finally. I don't regret a single moment.
do you?
Jennifer leaned her head on his shoulder. Not even one. This is the most alive I've felt in years. Maybe ever. Building something that matters, helping people who need it, watching our daughter become someone amazing. This is what life should be about. From inside the house, they heard Amara and Ekene laughing, plotting some scheme in a mixture of English and Igbo. The sound was pure joy, the kind that came from children who felt safe, loved, free to be themselves. We're going to face more challenges, Marcus said. The collectors won't stay quiet forever. There are probably other organizations out there, other threats we don't even know about yet. This fight isn't over. No, Jennifer agreed. But we're not fighting alone anymore. We have allies, resources, knowledge. And we have something they don't have. We're fighting for the right reasons. Not for profit or power, but for freedom. For the right of gifted children to live openly, to learn safely, to use their abilities to help others without fear. When did you become such an optimist? Marcus teased gently. When my daughter stood up and walked for the first time in 2 years. When a homeless boy risked everything to save strangers. When I realized that the world is full of more good than evil, more courage than cowardice, more love than hate. We just have to look for it. Marcus pulled her closer, breathing in the warm Nigerian night, listening to the sounds of his new life. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, new dangers, new impossibilities to overcome. But tonight, in this moment, they had peace. They had purpose. They had family. A notification chimed on Marcus's phone. He glanced at it, saw it was from one of the researchers they'd been working with. The subject line made him sit up straighter. Breakthrough in understanding gift mechanics. This changes everything. He opened the message, reading quickly, his excitement growing with each paragraph. The researcher had identified genetic markers associated with the gift, patterns that could help them locate other gifted individuals before the collectors did. More importantly, they discovered that the gift could be strengthened through specific types of training, could be awakened in people who carried dormant potential. The implications were staggering. They weren't just rescuing and protecting existing gifted ones. They were potentially creating a whole new generation of healers. What is it? Jennifer asked, seeing his expression. Marcus showed her the message, watched her eyes widen as she read. This means we could train hundreds of people. Thousands, eventually. We could bring the gift back from the edge of extinction. Ekene's dream, Marcus said softly. Making the gift available to everyone, impossible to control or own. We're actually going to do it. A figure appeared in the doorway. Chioma, Marcus's mother, who'd been staying with them since they arrived in Nigeria. I heard your excitement from inside, she said in Igbo. What has happened? Marcus explained, his words tumbling over each other in his enthusiasm. Chioma listened, her expression unreadable, until he finished. My mother would be so proud, she said finally, and Marcus heard the emotion in her voice. She spent her whole life hiding what she could do, afraid of drawing attention, afraid of what people would do if they knew. And now her grandson is making sure no one ever has to hide again. She would say this is worth all the struggles, all the sacrifices, all the pain of leaving home and living in a foreign land, because it led to this moment. She moved to embrace Marcus, and he felt the weight of generations in that hug. All the healers who'd come before, all the ones who'd suffered and died in secret, all the ones who'd dreamed of a better world but never lived to see it. We're going to honor them, Marcus promised. All of them. By finishing what they started, by creating the world they dreamed of. Then you should sleep, Chioma said practically. Tomorrow's work begins early, and you'll need your strength. Teaching you the dances is harder than I expected. You've spent too many years sitting in boardrooms instead of moving your body. Marcus laughed, the sound echoing across the compound. Yes, Mama. We'll sleep. But after Chioma went back inside, after Jennifer kissed him goodnight, and went to check on Amara one more time, Marcus stayed on the veranda a while longer. He looked up at the African stars, brighter than any he'd seen in America, and thought about the journey that had brought him here. A billionaire who'd found a homeless boy dancing for his paralyzed daughter. It sounded like the beginning of a fairy tale, the kind of story that was too perfect to be true. But Marcus knew better now. He knew that the most important stories were the ones that challenged you, changed you, demanded that you become someone better than you'd been before. This was their story. Not finished, not perfect, but real. And it would continue, through victories and setbacks, through dangers and triumphs, through all the messy, complicated, beautiful moments that made up a life lived with purpose. Marcus touched the bracelet on his wrist, feeling the texture of the woven threads. Each thread alone was weak, easily broken. But together, woven in the right pattern, they became strong enough to hold anything. That was the lesson Ekene had taught them. That was the truth his grandmother had carried for generations. That was the gift they would share with the world. We are all connected. We are all threads in the same great weaving. And when we recognize that connection, when we honor it and protect it and celebrate it, we become capable of impossible things.
Healing.
Protection.
Love.
Magic. Marcus smiled, standing up to go inside, to join his family, to rest before tomorrow's work began. Whatever came next, they would face it together. And that made all the difference. The stars shone down on the compound as the lights went out one by one. In the training ground, the patterns of countless feet had worn grooves into the earth, grooves that would deepen over time, as generation after generation learned the dances, carried on the tradition, kept the gift alive. And in her small room, Amara lay in bed, not sleeping yet, her hands moving through the air as she practiced the patterns she'd learned that day. Beside her bed, Ekene sat in a chair, teaching her the songs in a whisper, his voice blending with hers in harmonies that their ancestors would have recognized. Two children, dancing in the dark, learning to heal the world one step at a time. It was enough. It was everything. It was just the beginning.
The end.
Thank you so much for watching this story all the way through. If it moved you, if it made you think, if it inspired you even a little bit, please hit that subscribe button so you don't miss future stories. Share this video with someone who needs to hear about courage, family, and fighting for what's right. And drop a comment below telling me what you thought. Did the ending surprise you? What would you do if you discovered you had a gift like Ekene's? I read every comment, and I love hearing your thoughts. Until next time, remember, we're all connected, and the most powerful thing we can do is help each other. Stay blessed.